So I decided to wait a while after I finished CDL school to share my experience publicly. And I'm going to be honest, I was a little disappointed at first, and I didn't want to come across as negative. There's enough negativity here on YouTube, but this is my honest experience at Three Rivers Trucking School. Hello everyone, I'm glad you were able to tune in to another trucking video of mine. My name is Taja Woods. I'm a 24-year-old rookie driver here at Schneider, and I make videos about my life journey. So I got my Class A CDL through Three Rivers Trucking School. So this is just a short background about the school. Three Rivers Trucking School is the first black female-owned trucking school in the state of Georgia. The owner, Michelle Detweiler, founded the school as a means to give formerly incarcerated individuals a path to normal society. So I'm going to show a few clips from an interview she did with the Urban Truckers podcast, and it was a very interesting interview. Ed asked Michelle, why did she find the trucking school? And this is her response.
I always tell this story about my son. Big ups to my son. I can't wait for him to come home. If you're watching this or when you get to see this, Davion, I want you to know that everything we are doing is because of you. My son, about almost 8 years ago now, my son got arrested for armed robbery. And I remember getting a phone call, and you're not supposed to have your phone. Yeah. It's my son's girlfriend, and the first time I'm meeting her was on the phone, and she's telling me that my son had been arrested for armed robbery. Nothing in my life prepared me for that phone call. Yeah. We got back in the truck, and I told my husband, we gotta do something. And the only thing I know to do is use my CDLs. I don't know, I didn't know anything else. I don't know anybody want to come home from prison and be a secretary, but I'm quite sure they want to drive trucks.
Now, unfortunately, her son, Davion, was in prison for 7 years due to armed robbery. That fueled her inspiration to start the trucking school. You know, if you have a troubled background, you can change your ways. You can be a better person. You can get your CDL. On a side note, this is just a coincidence. Davion Harris was actually in my class, which was pretty cool. So around the time I started trucking school, he just got out of prison to start trucking school himself. He got his CDL a day before I did. The difference is he got his CDL the first time. It took me 2 tries to get my CDL, and I'll touch on that later. But anyways, like I said, this is a second chance trucking school. Nobody's perfect. People make mistakes, and I do believe people are capable of changing. And I do admire that this is a second chance trucking school. You know, the school welcomes people from all walks of life, and it doesn't matter if you're a convicted felon, a SAP driver, a single mom. You have the opportunity to write your own golden ticket. You know, a CDL is very powerful. You can get a job in less than 24 hours. You can earn a great living if you stick with it. You add value to society. And this trucking school saves convicts from going back to a life of crime. Because let's be honest, what other trucking school out there is willing to give another chance to people who've had a troubled past, who've been to prison? You'd be hard-pressed to find another school like Three Rivers. Now, as for me, I'm just an Army. I have a clean background. I've never been to jail. I was a nerd in school. I took honors classes, AP classes. I graduated high school and college to top of my class. And in spite of all this, I still decided to be a truck driver. So I could have went to any trucking school, but I was torn between going to Three Rivers or community college to get my CDL. Obviously, I chose Three Rivers. And the main thing that drew me to this school was the low tuition and the speed at which I could get my Class A CDL. The school was very convenient for my schedule. Had I went to community college, I'd have to quit my full-time job because of the class times. They overlap my work schedule. At the time I was in the school, tuition was $3,500. You know, if you paid everything out of pocket, that's exactly what I did. But now tuition is $4,500 as of January of this year. And you still can't beat that price. Even though it's $1,000 more expensive, it's way better than $7,000, $8,000 at these 2-year contracts these mega carriers offered that they're pushing on these drivers. And a lot of these companies, you can get your money back. You can get tuition reimbursement. So yeah, get your CDL from a trucking school. But anyways, another thing that I liked about Three Rivers was that the instructors were very patient for the most part. I'm not sure if he's still there, and I don't want to dox him because you don't see him on their social media pages. So I'm just going to call him Steven. Now, Steven was the lead instructor. Eric Detweiler, Michelle's husband, helped with some of the classes some days, not every day. And it was mostly Steven teaching the maneuvers. At the time I was in CDL school, Michelle was in South Africa because she was opening a CDL school down there, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Three Rivers is actually international. But anyways, the maneuvers were made simple and easy to understand. If you had trouble, Steven, he'd always help you with your backing. If you had questions, he was always helpful. He even bought Chick-fil-A for us the last day of class, and that was pretty nice of him. So shout out to him if he's watching this. And another thing, they were pretty strict on pre-trip. We'd have to write that down, that pre-trip inspection 3 times for the entire truck, and that is a lot. That was the expectation. You never knew which form you were getting on test day, so we had to memorize all of the truck, all the parts of the truck. We had to point out which parts were not bent, cracked, or broken, whether or not it was leaking ad nauseum. And it sucked, but you get used to it. You know, it becomes second nature after a while. And there are actually videos made by a former instructor at Three Rivers Trucking School. His name is Dylan Rice. He was pretty thorough in his pre-trip videos, and they helped me a ton. And I'll include links to his videos in the description down below. But trust me on this, you know, they are serious about that pre-trip inspection, because in reality, that's your life and other people's lives on the line. So yeah, please pre-trip your equipment. So yeah, if you can't get through the pre-trip portion on the CDL test, you can't get to maneuvers. Most people end up failing their CDL test because of the pre-trip inspection. But yeah, that's what I liked about Three Rivers. The instructors were pretty helpful, and their methods for memorizing pre-trip were very effective. And yeah, so moving on, this is why I was disappointed with the school after I finished. The manual trucks at that school were broken down. We could only practice on the automatic trucks, and I just feel like I didn't get what I really paid for. You know, I didn't want to have an automatic restriction on my CDL, and I didn't want to wait around for the manual trucks to finally get fixed. You know, I wanted to get my CDL at an affordable price and save time. You know, I'm a working professional. I'm taking time off work to be at that school. And it took me several months of working overtime to pay for that school. And it's frustrating when you spend all that money on something and it's not what you thought it was. And you also get lack of road time at that school. At most, you get 1 or 2 days on the road to maneuver a semi-truck if you're lucky. And this is contrary to what Michelle says in the interview on the Urban Truckers podcast. Take a look.
We have 2 trucks that just go on the road. So we only take trucks those 2 trucks only do drive time. They don't do anything else. And we do road time every Monday and every Wednesday and every Friday.
I'm not saying she's a liar. The interview was filmed in December of 2022. Maybe they did something like that at one point. It just wasn't the case while I was in school. I was there for 5 weeks, mind you, and I only went on the road twice in their trucks. The first time it was in the manual truck. It was terrible and it was scary. Even with Eric helping me shift gears, I didn't know what I was doing, and it was a great thing that I had experience driving commercial vehicles prior to going to that school. You know, I didn't understand how people are, you know, getting their Class A CDL from this school if they've only been on the road in a semi one time, maybe twice. But somehow it works out and people are passing their CDL test. So ultimately, I did get my CDL from this school. It just took me more than one attempt, but I got it. They're a pretty small trucking school. They don't have a lot of instructors that are qualified to go out on the road with students. So maybe that's why the road time was very much limited at that school. And another thing that bothered me was their approach to teaching us how to drive a standard transmission. Like I said, the road time was limited. And my first time learning how to drive a standard, it was scary. So how am I supposed to learn how to drive a manual truck if I'm only getting 1 or 2 days to practice shifting? It just didn't make sense to me. So I think that school needs like a standard truck simulator. You know, students can practice shifting at their own time safely instead of, you know, practicing for the first time live on the road and getting yelled at while you're trying to learn how to shift. So yeah, I just gave up on learning how to drive a manual truck. You know, I certainly was not going to learn how to do it there. So, and I couldn't ask for my money back because of the refund policy. And the tuition is the same regardless if you tested a manual truck or an automatic truck. So as I said, I failed my CDL test the first time. We only went over alley docking one time while I was at that school. They emphasized that it was easy, you shouldn't have any issues, because the way they taught alley docking, you set up the truck in a way in which you jackknife it and then unjackknife it. And because we were only practicing it for 1 day, I was hoping I was only going to get parallel on the test. You're twice as likely to get parallel parking because you're going to either park on the driver's side or the passenger side. And I felt more comfortable doing the parallel parking maneuver. But of course, my luck, I got the alley duck, the 90-degree back. And I felt that test flat on my face. Like I said, the way they taught us how to alley duck was basically jackknife the truck and then unjackknife the truck to walk it in the parking spot. The fifth wheel on the test trucks is slid all the way up, if that makes sense. So because the tractor is so close to the trailer on the test trucks, if you do the maneuver the way they teach you, you could damage the trailer because it's so close to the tractor. And of course, I damaged their equipment. At first, I didn't realize it. The examiner didn't realize it either while I was trying to alley dog. It wasn't until another classmate who went to retake his CDL test, he noticed the damage and he reported it to Michelle's assistant. And that's how I found out that I damaged their equipment. I was about to cuss. I'm sorry, y'all. I was about to cuss. But anyways, yeah, they have inward-facing cameras in their truck. So that's how they were determined that it was me that did it. So in their contract that you signed the first day, you have to come out of pocket to pay for damages to their equipment. But here's the crazy part. If you fail your CDL test or need to take a partial test, they charge you $350 to be put on their insurance. But you're financially responsible for any damages to their equipment if they determine it's your fault. So, I take responsibility for damaging their trailer. And I didn't have time to really fight with them on this because it was BS. I'm already out of $350 because I failed the test, and I have to pay another $300 on top of that. I was pretty heated. And the DMV also charges you a non-refundable $50 test reservation fee. At that point, I just wanted my license. What I went through at that school, I was just over it, man. I was at that school for way too long. Their trucks were dirty. They were dusty. They had no AC. It was 90 degrees, Georgia heat. And, honestly, I don't really care for that because it seems like all trucking schools in Atlanta are like that. I know their competitor, Catlaw CDL School, their trucks are in the same condition. And their tuition is more expensive. So, yeah, I guess it's just the thing with training trucks. Why put a rookie in a new truck? They're just going to mess it up. But yeah, you're training out there in the elements. It was hot, muggy. You're walking on gravel. I was always dirty at the end of the day. And then, the Georgia summers, you gotta love them. So yeah, that was my experience at Three Rivers. I wanted to wait because I was pretty heated when I finished the school. Eventually, I just let it go. I did get my CDL from them. It wasn't sunshine and rainbows. I went through some adversity, but I think the investment into myself worked out. Even though I spent an extra $700, looking back, I kind of understand why I had to pay out of pocket for damaging their trailer. I think if they had to use their insurance to pay for it, they put it on my DAC report, which would affect me finding another job, like a trucking job when I'm done with trucking school. But maybe that's the reason. I'm not sure. But anyways, this is the final verdict. Do I recommend this CDL school after everything I just said? Yes and no. Yes, because the tuition is low if you don't qualify for grants. You can go to free if you do qualify for grants. They're felon friendly, SAT friendly. They have a very strict and effective approach to pre-trip inspections, and the maneuvers are easy to follow. Now, the reason why I won't recommend it is because if you don't want an automatic restriction, you may get one. If you're a slow learner, there's lack of road time, and there was some miscommunication while I was there. So when I was training, I trained under Kentworth T680s and Freightliner Cascadias. That's what they had on their lot, their training lot. It looks like they have the International and a Kentworth truck in their new training videos. So maybe they were able to get the manual truck on their training yard again. But regardless, they need to get a truck simulator with a 10-speed gear shifter. They got the money for it because what did Eric get Michelle for her birthday?
As far as what I made, I can say this. For my birthday, my husband was able to buy me my dream car, which was the Bentley Coupe. So I'll leave that there.
There you go.
That's what we make.
And yeah, I feel like a truck simulator would help with the learning curve associated with learning how to drive a stick shift. Yeah, so my experience wasn't all bad. I'd say it was mixed. Michelle was in South Africa at the time I was in CDO school. So I didn't really interact with her until I was almost done. You know, I don't really have any issues with her in particular. I think she has a great program. You know, her marketing is great. Her reasoning behind starting the program is great. They're great for someone who wants a second chance at life, really. And, you know, the Detweilers, they're so gracious that if you're homeless, they'll give you a place to stay. You know, they'll help you if you truly need it. But yeah, that's my opinion. And please don't go on her page, leave her any mean-spirited comments. You know, I have the utmost respect for the Detweilers and what they've been able to accomplish. However, I'm not going to lie about my experience at that school. And that's just what it is. You know, if I had more time on my hands, I would have just went to community college. But I was just in a rush and I was cheap. So, yeah, I still don't know how to drive a manual truck, but I'm here at Schneider now, so it doesn't matter. I don't want to be at Schneider forever, so eventually I have to learn how to drive a manual truck. I just need to take a refresher course at some point, and I just got to get that set up somewhere. But yeah, that's my experience at the trucking school for felons. Everyone can go to that school, by the way. I just wanted to clickbait this title. I'm not ashamed of it either. But anyways, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, follow me on social media, and I'll see you next time.